In today's gospel, we hear about the Lake of Gennesaret. And you might wonder, what is that? Well, we know it as the Sea of Galilee. But the Sea of Galilee is actually a mistranslation from St. Jerome, who never ever saw the Lake of Gennesaret. And as he was trying to translate the Greek into Latin, and as he heard the stories about storms and boats, he thought of the Mediterranean Sea, and so he called it the Sea of Galilee. But to this day, its real name is the Lake of Gennesaret. And it isn't that big. It's just a large lake. And when we hear fishermen, my mind early on went to something like the Chesapeake Bay or the Atlantic Ocean, a nice big fishing boat and lots of fishermen and huge nets being dragged behind boats and hauling in fish, and nothing could be further from what was going on. Fishermen in the time of Jesus, as well as today, understood that you did not fish in deep water. The fish weren't anywhere near deep water with the little hand nets that you could throw over the edge of the boat and pull in. You fished along the shore. And particularly you fished along the fresh mineral springs that bubbled up in certain places along the shore. Fishermen for generations know the exact spots where you need to go, where these mineral springs bubble up and the fish come around all the foliage that's there, and you can throw your nets out and drag them right back in and catch your fish. And you do it at particular times of the day. Early in the morning, late at night, but not in the heat of the day. So Jesus shows up, and they finished fishing, and they haven't had any success. And he asks for one of the boats, and they push him out into the water a little bit, and so he's sitting on the water in a boat, looking up the hillside and providing a natural amphitheater so people can hear his teaching. And then he says, "Go out into deep water and throw your nets out." And they looked at him and they said, "That doesn't make any sense. You don't go in deep water and throw your nets out. But we'll do it." And they did. And the thing that caught their attention was not only the large number of fish, but the fact that they got fish at all in a place where you never get fish. That's what led Peter to say, "I am a sinful man, Lord. Who are you?" And Jesus said, "Come, follow me, and you're going to catch people from now on." Before Clifford and I were called here to St. John's, I served for 2 years as a bivocational priest in the Charlotte area, which meant that I had a secular job during the week and I served as a priest on the weekend. I taught 7th grade middle school science, and I served in a sweet little church called St. Andrew's, where on a good Sunday we had 17 people. It was out in the country, in the middle of nowhere, quintessential little country church, white clapboard, on nice rolling hill, and the people were the kindest and the gentlest and the most loving you could ever imagine. One day, one of the parishioners named Jim came up and said, "I got the craziest idea, and I want to know what you think of it. We spend all this money having someone mow 2 acres of grass around this church every week. And we are in one of the biggest poverty areas that you can imagine. People are desperate for some place and some way to get nutritious, affordable food. So what would you think if we plowed up all that grass and we said to the community, this is going to be a community garden and anyone who wants to come can come and plant vegetables and food, and we can just offer that. I said, I think that's a great idea. Go for it. He says, well, there are lots of problems because there's no water here. We're going to have to talk to the city about getting the water line out. And I don't know if it'll work, but I'm going to try. About 6 months after Clifford and I had arrived here, we got an email message from Jim. And in that email, he had a photo of the front page of the local newspaper. And there he was, standing, smiling. And we recognized where he was standing, but there wasn't any grass anymore. There was this amazing community garden with raised beds and a water source and all these people. And here he was holding an armful of vegetables, talking about the dream that he had and how God had blessed that dream. And how that little church was able to serve a community in a way that they never had thought about serving before. Statisticians tell us that 20% of Americans now regularly go to church. And by regularly, they mean at least once a month. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, that statistic is 16% are regular church attenders. By that we mean once a month. We have been so incredibly blessed here at St. John's Church, not only with the resources that we've been given, but with the people that God continues to draw to this community. And if you look up into the ceiling, it's very clear that we are like the fishermen in a boat. But the question is, what is Jesus calling us to do? And what is Jesus calling you to do? That might be different from anything that we've thought about or dreamed about before. I can tell you that 10 years ago, I would have never, ever imagined ordering anything online. 10 to 15 years ago, I wasn't really sure what online was or how online worked. But now, I find myself drawn to the internet for finding and shopping for all sorts of things. It's far more convenient. I can find what I want. And we can see the shift and the change as retail stores begin to close and online merchants become larger and larger. From every metric that you look at, any place in life, we see that the world is changing faster sometimes than we even want to agree or believe in. And yet, the church often thinks that we can do the same things in the same way, and it will work in a world that has become completely different. What is it that God might call us to do that is as absolutely crazy as taking this ship out into deep water and throwing it net over the side? Jesus, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to do that? What is it that Jesus might be asking you to do in your personal life that is as crazy as what he asked Simon Peter, James, and John to do that day on the lake of Gennesaret? You see, God has not left us. Jesus is still ushering in his kingdom. He's here in the boat, and his presence feeds us and nourishes us and sustains us. But he's looking for people who, like Peter and James and John and even Isaiah in our first reading, he's saying, who's going to go? Who's going to do the crazy, wild idea, new thing that no one's ever thought of? Who can go for us? Who can I send? He's looking for you and for me to say, "Here I am.